You know, it was a pretty mid-month when your book of the month is the one that made you the least miserable. But let's go ahead and wrap up the month of June now. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another monthly wrap-up, this time for June of 2024. Somewhat of a letdown of a month, and we'll get into that as it goes, but some great things did happen as well, and we're going to talk about those all today. We're going to get like usual, guys. We're talk about what I read in the month of June. I read 3 novels, I read 4 manga volumes, and I DNF'd one book, which is very, very rare. I think it's only the 3rd one I've DNF'd since I started this channel, so that tells you how rare it truly was. Let's get into each one of those. Let's start with that DNF. That, of course, was The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez, a book that was part of the ℂ𝕦𝕤𝕤𝕤, which is just kind of like a reading club, in case you missed. I'm doing with Brian over at BellTube. It was his idea with myself, Dr. Philip Chase, and, of course, John over at Talking Story, where we kind of just want to get one that was out of our comfort zone maybe a little bit. Not part of a series, something that we could talk about, and it just was a big miss for me. It was one that I was just like, I can see why people do enjoy this. I am not one of those people, though, so it didn't really work for me. Don't think it's a bad book necessarily, and so again, if you like it, that's awesome. It just wasn't my bread and butter, let's put it that way. The Demon Awakens by R.A. Salvatore, kind of mixed to positive on this one. There was lots of things I did like. There was lots of things where I'm like, it's pretty predictable, just like most traditional fantasy of the time truly was in the 90s. He does take some risks that I did like in that. It was one of those where, like, I found myself not being really drawn to what was clearly the lead character. They felt like, I can make the comparison to Wax in the Mistborn Era 2 books by Brandon Sanderson, where I'm not really resonating with your main character. He's just so dry toast. It isn't really working for me. I thought the world was neat. The magic system was excellent. But there was just something about the characters that I wasn't really excited. I liked Jill a lot, and I liked Avalon a lot. I didn't like the lead character, O'Brien, and that seems like, So it's one of those where I said it was good enough for me to continue with the series. I'm just not anxious to start book number 2 yet. Come With Me by Ronald Malfi, as I am trying to get more horror on the channel that is not just in the month of October, and Ronald Malfi was one that came highly recommended to me by a lot of Stephen King fans, and I did enjoy the book quite a bit. Wool by Hugh Howey. This is the first book in the Silo series. This was actually one that I say I can't count that as a DNF because I started reading this, I think in like 2022 or so. It just wasn't the right time. So I said I'll come back to it later. I'd only gotten about 100 pages into it. Well, I did finish it this time. And it's one of those that just kind of like, I think I like the TV series better. It's just something about the pacing of it. I know it is an omnibus of collected stories from like magazines and trades and things like that, where they had to kind of compile it all together and make one book. And that's why it just seems like it's just the pacing is just so off. I felt like anytime I tried to get focused on one character, he kept switching to another one, and he kept going to less and less interesting characters. I wasn't as interested in Lucas and some of the other characters as I was Juliet's story, and whenever it kind of went away from her, I kind of found myself losing interest in the story. But I did finish it, and like Demon Awakens, I did like it enough to continue. It's just nothing I'm anxious to continue right now. And then, of course, One Piece Volume 24 through 27. I wanted to finish all of Skypiea in June. It just doesn't happen that way sometimes. And whenever I run out of time, it's always going to be the written word books that are going to take priority over manga. So I know I do have a schedule here where I'm trying to finish each of these sagas per month, so Philip and I can talk about them. So I will be finishing Skypiea, hopefully relatively soon, because I do have all of Water 7 to do in July. But yeah, pretty mediocre reading month. Now look, I really do like this new reading format that I'm doing. One horror, one sci-fi, one fantasy, one manga, and one kind of miscellaneous book. That's keeping me from ever feeling like I'll have a reading burnout, because I can always just switch genres, and it's not a problem. But there was a lot of misses this month, and it was ones where I said, like, there was one DNF, but then the other books were just like, they were fine. Again, nothing that makes me just be like, I can't stop thinking about them. All these books this month were ones that, like, 5 minutes after reading them, I wasn't thinking about them anymore. And that, to me, is usually the mark of a pretty forgettable book, right? So when it comes to picking my book of the month, how do I follow that up with book of the month? Well, I mean, to me, this was a winner by default. Didn't think it was a bad book. I thought it was a very good first offering of myself with Ronald Malfi. So I do think that I did like the book. I think my only criticism of it really is it was sold to me as a horror book. And guys, this is not a horror book. This is very much a cold case tracking a serial killer kind of story, very much more of a thriller or mystery crime novel than I call it a horror. I know that anytime you got a serial killer in a story now, they classify it as horror. But to me, I feel like I think I'd like to have a little bit of supernatural in my horror, or just, some kind of creature or monster that's hunting people down. That's the kind of stuff I think I'm into. When you get that sense of dread, I feel like it's done really well. This didn't really have any of that. I was really interested. I was into these mystery the whole time. I wanted to see Aaron succeed. I wanted to see what the whole mystery was. So pretty much what you got for the moment where, it's his deceased wife, he finds like this mystery box kind of thing. And, mystery boxes, some people find them bad. But with me, it was opened relatively early. Mystery boxes are bad when you don't know what's in it. It's opened rather early. But from that moment, I'm pretty much wrapped in the book. I want to know the answers to all this stuff. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. I can see it being one of those where, like, if you go into this expecting Stephen King, you're going to be disappointed. But I think Stephen King fans will enjoy it, as I am one. And I do think that other constant readers will have a good time with this book if you go into it knowing that this is very much kind of a cold case story. It is not. So if you like kind of like current King stuff where he's just obsessed with like Holly Gibney and things like that, I think maybe you might be a little bit more into this, because it does have a lot of the similar kind of paths that it follows. And I think that his writing style is very good. I do feel like maybe the last 10 pages try to force something, but it didn't ruin the book at all. I kept waiting for this big twist in this book, but it never happened. It never happened. It's pretty straightforward, so all my guessing was wrong, but it does really capture grief very well. I think that's something he does really good, and I can see that's why it gets these Stephen King comparisons, because just reading the synopsis, I was like, that sounds a lot like Bag of Bones. It's not like Bag of Bones, except that you're dealing with a widow. That's about it. With this, it's very much more of a mystery. It's about what was his wife up to before she passed away, and it's one of those, like, how far do you go? How much do you want to know about that person that's passed away, about the secrets that they kept from you, and you just find yourself not being able to stop. So I think it has really good themes. Really good pacing. I never felt bored in this book. It wasn't that long. And I really did like his writing style enough to say, I will read more Ronald Malfi, probably this year. I definitely want to read Blackmouth. I own that one. So I'll definitely be reading more Ronald Malfi. And while I say it's my book of the month by default, it's just because, in most months, this probably wouldn't have been my book of the month. But with that field that I had there, yeah, it was not a hard choice for me to pick this one, because this was the only one where I really was like, okay, well, I'm reading it quick. I'm not ever putting it down. I'm thinking about it while I'm not reading it. Now, while after I finish it, maybe I didn't think about it too much. But I think while I was reading it, I was very much entranced in the story and wanted to know the answers. And that's why, guys, it is my book of the month for June of 2024. And I do recommend it if you like those things that I did mention there. How about some channel growth, guys? This is the depressing part of the stream. I had a lot of people ask me, hey, has the channel hacked? When your channel got hacked, I got hacked at the end of May, and people want to know, did it affect your channel? And I was like, well, I need a little bit more data. I need about a month's worth of data. Since the hack, everything has gone down, guys. Everything. And look, it's one of those things where I don't sit here and try to complain about how, like, my videos are getting like 5,000 to 6,000 views each anymore, because I know that a lot of people would kill for that kind of traffic. You got coming up on 120,000 subscribers. Yeah, 5,000 views is pretty weak. And it's pretty weak compared to everything pre-hack as well. But 1,538 new subscribers. That's actually up 318 from May. But also, guys, remember, I lost about 2,000 subscribers when the channel did get taken over. We got some of those back. So I'm not going to really say that that's a green arrow, but it is as compared just to what the numbers were at the end of the month last month. 349,000 views. That's down 69,000 from May, which was already a record low month for the channel. 44,000 hours watched, down 7,000 from May. So yeah, I one of those things where you try to tell yourself, look, it's the channel hack. You haven't changed anything, but you also start to, as a content creator, be like, am I getting monotonous? Am I getting boring? So it's one of those things where you just kind of say, I'm going to keep working at this. It is what it is. You roll with the punches, and you just keep on keeping on. I'm very goal oriented. And I like to watch the statistics and stuff. So would I be lying if I said it didn't bother me? But I'm not going to sit here and piss and moan about it, because it's just, them's the breaks. How do you get back up? That's what I think. When you get knocked down, how do you get back up? Let's move along to some of my most popular content here. So 12 full-length videos this month, 6 short-form videos, I like to call them, 1 live stream and 1 short. So the short-form videos are like book trailers, some excerpts from some other videos, things like that. So nothing that I would ever say is a fully original content, except the one that I recorded on the beach while I was on vacation talking about vanished birds. Live stream where we did talk about the ℚ𝕦𝕤𝕤𝕤, did talk about the vanished birds. And of course, just 12 full-length videos that also include, weekly updates as well as everything else. But let's look at those top 5 videos for this month. Top 10 authors of all time has 15,000 views. It's a video I put off putting out for a long time, and it was Philip that actually encouraged me to do that. And it's one of those that's ever going to be ever evolving. I mean, I would think if I made that list again today, it'd probably be different. That's why it's such a tough list to make, because some authors go in, other ones go out. It's just kind of the way it goes. It's ever in flux. I feel like my top 3 or 4 will probably stay locked for a long time. It's going to be hard to knock them off that perch. But I do feel like that top 10 would change frequently, so that'll probably be one that I do update from time to time if there is enough change, just like I do with my top 10 fantasy series of all time. Book adaptations that could be the next Shogun, that has 11,000 views. And what that was is I was just really, really frustrated about Lord of the Rings, the Hunt for Gollum movie that they're making, and the Shogun Season 2. It's just like there's so much great stuff out there that I feel like could capture that Shogun audience, I think. And so I take a look at like 10 books that I have on my shelf that are pretty much standalone-ish, not really series or anything like that, where you could do like the limited series, the mini series like Shogun was, where it was just 8 to 10 episodes, where you could tell the full story, that I think they could probably draw in some of that same audience, but also some that maybe has a chance of getting those kind of people, but it might be a little bit more niche. But again, just some of the ones that I would really like to see adapted, I think, that I feel like could get the Shogun treatment if they did it right, instead of doing these fan fiction things that they're doing so much right now. May 2024 book haul. I don't think that I have to tell you why. Book hauls are always popular. 10,000 views. I like to do those. It's a way to say thank you for people who send me stuff, because you guys are ever a blessing. I mean, the fact that you could take your hard-earned money and think, I want to send Mike something, to this day, that still blows my mind. I'm so thankful for it. And anytime I can give independent authors a shout out and try to help get them on the map, I am more than willing to do that. And if I got a chance to show off any of those beautiful broken binding editions, I'm definitely going to do that, because those are just, whew, they are sexy, aren't they? The Good and the Bad, brought that series back. That was actually off of a recommendation from a patron. He did recommend I do a Good and the Bad for that instead of a Why You Should Read, because Realm of the Eldlings is very much kind of you either love it or you hate it, it seems like. And it's definitely not a series I think is for everyone, because I get that question a lot. Mike, do you think I would like the Realm of the Eldlings? Or, you know what, hey, I'm on like book 3. Does it get faster paced than this or whatever? So I wanted to answer all those questions and kind of present it as, if you like the things I talk about in the good, yeah, I say go ahead and pick it up. If you're wary of the things I mentioned in the bad, there might be other series out there for you. And I do have lots of recommendations for that if you want to do that. But I did really enjoy my time at the Realm of the Eldlings. I said it was good enough that Robin Hobb is a top 10 author for me now, and I feel like Realm of the Eldlings is a top 10 fantasy series for me now. But it's not perfect, much in the way that Wheel of Time isn't perfect, and Wheel of Time is a top 10 series for me. So I just feel like it's okay to have some warts on things that you love. It doesn't take away from the fact that they're still amazing. But Realm of the Eldlings is going to kind of depend on you. Your mileage is going to vary on that, and that's why the whole point of Good and the Bad is if these are things that you're looking for, hey, pick it up. And if these are things you're kind of like, stay back, demon, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't be for you. My TBR update, these usually don't do so well because I do towards the end of the month. 6,000 views on this one. This was I kind of dedicate this one to patrons. This was I call Patron's Choice, because every book on my July TBR is a one that a longtime patron has recommended to me. So I want to give them a hat tip, and obviously just say thank you to all my patrons, because you guys are amazing. And some of these patrons have all been with me since, gosh, like the year 2020, I think. So I wanted to make sure I gave them a nice little hat tip and said thank you, because in most cases I think they sent me the book that I did pick up by them. So yeah, that's fun. I want to try to do that every couple of months or so. Just try to make sure I get some stuff on, maybe like a couple, but maybe like 2 or 3 times a year. Try to get my TBR list to be exactly what patrons have recommended to me. So I may not read everything that you guys recommend, but I'm always listening, and I will always get there if I can. I don't plan on stopping reading anytime soon. So that was the top 5. There are a couple of what I call my favorites that didn't do as well. Obviously, Into the Multiverse. Anytime I get to talk about Stephen King, I'm going to be excited to do it. And I feel like Dreamcatcher is a book that gets a lot of flack, and I feel like it gets way, way worse than some of his other books. I feel like deserve the thrashing that they get. But with this one, I feel like it's a mixed bag, and I feel like if you aren't new to Stephen King, I think you can find yourself enjoying it. if it's like one of the first handful of Stephen King books you read, you're going to think, why is Mike recommending this guy all the time? So it's not a book that's going to be for everyone, clearly, but I do want to talk about why I think there are really good things in it, even if rereading it did take a little bit of the nostalgia off of it when I read it, when it was the first book he released post-accident, and I was just excited that we were getting new Stephen King books when I thought it was over. So, I wanted to give some love to that one. I always love doing Into the Multiverse because you get to look around at all the things in that book and how it connects to his greater universe. And I got to mention the ℙ𝕦𝕤𝕤𝕤𝕤. That was a lot of fun for me, even though I DNF'd the book. Anytime I can talk to Philip and Brian and John, it's a fun time. It's a fun time. And I'm really excited about this. We did pick our next book that we're going to be doing. It's going to be up in September is when we're going to be doing our discussion, but it's going to be Ordinary Grace by William Kent Krueger, a book that everyone that dropped in my coming of age, my favorite coming of age books, they dropped in the comments of that video, and everybody was recommending Ordinary Grace, saying that would be something they feel like that. There's zero chance I will not like it, So that's the one that I recommended for us, and Philip will be hosting the next one. But that was a fun conversation to have. Like I said, even though I did not finish the book, it's always a good time to talk to them and listen to, maybe some things they picked up from the book that I did not. So how about some July goals before I go here? I guess, look, just try to find a way to get back in the favor of the algorithm, because in the end, guys, it sucks to work that hard on stuff and people don't watch it, So in the end, that's really what it kind of goes to. I always, like I said, goal oriented, so I'm always looking to grow the channel. I'm always looking to get better and things like that. So I keep trying new things. But right now it's tough going. It's hard to stay motivated sometimes when you feel like you're really, really working your tail off. And the YouTube algorithm says, nah, I don't believe that you're a real channel anymore. So, it's really hard. But, try to figure that out. Continue mixing genres. I love that I'm doing this now. I just feel like this is something that's going to help me avoid burnout. Because I was doing 95% fantasy and 5% everything else. So at this point, it was like, okay, I want to try to mix it up a little bit to avoid that reading burnout that I had earlier in the year, because that was not fun. It took a few thrillers and horror books to kind of get me out of that. But I feel like I am back now. And it gives me the opportunity, like I said, to pick up more sci-fi books, pick up more horror books, instead of just being a fantasy and miscellaneous once in a while kind of story. That's why I want to get my TBR back into those kinds of things. And I want to try to stay consistent with my other channel, which is Mike's Media Reviews. I'm not doing as much solo stuff over there. A lot of that stuff I'm doing with my wife, which is mostly just conversations. But it's one of those where I didn't think anybody would be interested in hear what we had to say. People seem to really enjoy the way we talk. I came up in podcasting, guys, so having someone else to talk to is a lot of fun for me. I love to be able to ramble like this, and I love having full creative control. But over there, being able to discuss the things that we watch together is a lot of fun, and play together and listen to all these things. But I tell people this is what we talk about like all the time. So, hey, if I can share that with you guys and you get a kick out of it, hey, I'm happy to help. But just stay consistent with it, because every time I've tried to get Mike's Media Reviews going, I'll go back on it, full steam, and then I don't do nothing for it for 6 months, So I want to make sure that I stay consistent with it. We are doing a weekly wrap-up kind of thing over there, just talking about everything that's going on in like movie and TV and gaming news, and that's been a lot of fun so far. And I've gotten good feedback, but hope you guys will stick with us while we try to figure out the audio-video problems, because I didn't want to record it here. I wanted it to feel different. I didn't want it to feel like just like an addition, a supplement to this channel. So we actually moved it into the media room and trying to get the lighting, everything in there, because it doesn't have a door, so you've got to play around with natural lighting and stuff. It's been interesting. We even tried like the wireless microphones. Those did not work very well, so we won't be doing that again. But it takes me back to when I first started the channel, really, and all the grief it had getting things just right. I mean, here I am 5 years in, guys, and I still have mistakes. The video I put out the other day looked like I was in a cave. It was so dark. So I mean, it's a learning experience, guys. You just kind of roll with it as you can. But that was the month of June, guys. I'd love to know what your book of the month for June was. Why don't you drop in the comments and let me know, and I will talk to you there.